Started my law enforcement career in 1996, and people doubted me. You'll never make it there. So I always use that as motivation in my life. So like I said, my life is, I've always been an underdog. I've always been too short to do this, too stupid to do that. Like I said, I've been doubted, and I always tried to prove the doubters wrong. September 15th, 2014, it was, we were working the midnight shift. It was a little after 2 a.m. We got a bolo overspend. The whole pursuit lasted not even 5 minutes. The driver at this point puts the car in reverse, starts ramming into the Rutherford car. All the while, the wheels are spinning. The gas was floored. Now the tires are spinning out of control.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
It's an odd person who's willing to put their life on the line for another, who they don't even know, and who may not even want him there. It's a life of sacrifice. It's a life of selflessness. It's a life of suffering. You walk out the door one morning and an unusual or extraordinary event happens. You come home, if you're lucky enough to come home at all, another entirely different person. A person who your family and friends don't recognize anymore. You're injured, although no wound is visible. You're in pain, but you're not sure where. You've changed, but you're not sure how. You're left to deal with this overwhelming darkness all alone. Or so you think. But there are others. And yes, we can help. Because none of us are as strong as all of us. I'm Kevin Donaldson, always here with Mike Failace, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here, and that's the stories that we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment, ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content, and now you can join. Follow us on all social media so you can find out exactly what we're up to. Before we get into anything, let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody as police officers, but we do trust them. So go to toyotahackensack.com. And while you're at it, go to 234 Franklin Avenue in Nutley. Go see Gus at Cubita Cafe. Some of the most delicious food. I was just there. I brought my whole family over there. And here's the best advertisement I can give. My 14-year-old son sat down there and had one of the sloppy Cubans. And he's about to graduate 8th grade, and he says, "Hey, Dad, after we graduate, can you take me to lunch here?" That's what this place does. Most delicious food, family, and like Gus says, he's not in the food business, he's in the people business. So go to 234 Franklin Avenue in Nutley. Go see Gus at Cubita Cafe. On this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we share a battle, the suffering of PTSD. I'm joined with my brother, retired Lieutenant Mike Failace. Mike and I first met some 25 years ago, believe it or not. I used to work with his brother, but then in reality, we really met about 6 years ago. Mike, thanks for coming in today. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, you are one of my brothers, and I'm so happy you're here today.
No, it's a pleasure to be here.
You're retired Lieutenant Mike Failace. Why don't you give the Suffering Podcast audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was born and raised in a small town in North Arlington, Lower Bergen County. Started my law enforcement career in 1996. Was hired by the Bergen County Sheriff's Department as an investigator. Did about 3.5 years there, went through various positions. I was in the court system. I was in civil process division, violation of probation warrant squad. In August of 99, I got a call from Lyndhurst Police Department. I started my career at Lyndhurst Police Department August 9th, 1999. Started off in the patrol division. Then a couple of years, I got promoted to detective. About 10 years or so after that, I got promoted to sergeant. Put back in the patrol division. Ultimately, I got promoted to lieutenant, which is the rank I retired at.
What motivated you to become a police officer?
You know, my whole life has been, I've been doubted my whole life. A lot of that is what drives me. I had two goals in my life. One was to be a professional football player. Then I realized I was too short, too slow. And my other dream was to become a police officer. I had an uncle who was a police officer in Port Authority Police, and I always saw him in uniform and everything. And it just really, I was attracted to the uniform and the way he presented himself. A very professional guy. He was a captain. He ran their police academy, squared away guy. And I always kind of wanted to model myself after him. But like I said, I mean, everybody doubted me my whole life. Playing football my whole life, being one of the better athletes in a small town like North Arlington, I wanted to better myself. So I went to Seton Hall Prep to play football because that was a premier football program in the state. And people doubted me. You'll never make it there. I had friends' fathers come up to me and say, oh, you think you're better than everybody. You'll never make it. One kid's father came up to me and said, oh, I'll see you at North Arlington High School next year. So I always use that as motivation in my life. So like I said, my life is, I've always been an underdog. I've always been too short to do this, too stupid to do that. You know, I wasn't the greatest student in the world. Like I said, I've been doubted, and I always tried to prove the doubters wrong.
Well, it's very few people in this world that actually start off on top of that mountain and then become great or have that greatness in them. It's always the underdog that starts.
Life is a gradual climb.
That's right.
You know, we're not born on the top of the mountain. You got to get to the top of the mountain.
Would have been nice. I would have liked to seen how the other half lives, but
I'd love to be on the top of the mountain, look down at everybody every day. But
you just say you don't ever start at the top of the mountain, and you went through this incredibly traumatic experience after you reached your goal of becoming a police officer. Let's talk about your traumatic experience, because you were involved in a shooting, correct?
That's correct.
Let's get into your shooting.
It was September 15th, 2014. It was we were working the midnight shift. It was 1900 to 0700.
Everybody remembers the exact date of their shooting or traumatic incident.
And time. So we just get past midnight. So it was actually September 16th. It was a Monday night into Tuesday morning. There was really not much going on.
Always starts out a slow night. Mine did too. It started out a slow night. It sucked.
They had, we had Monday Night Football. After 2 o'clock, once the bars cleared out, make sure everybody got home. Or we had a couple arrests that night. One of our guys had a drug arrest, so we had some people in headquarters. And being a supervisor, I have to do all the processing and all that. It was a little after 2 a.m. We get a bolo overspend.
Bolo, for those of you out there, is be on the lookout for.
2 people were trying to break into a car. They were trying to break into a Nissan in North Arlington, which is one town south of us. The lady had cameras on her house, and she actually saw them breaking into her car, so she went running out in her pajamas and scared the people away. They jumped into a black SUV. North Arlington gave the bolo. I was in headquarters at that point. One of our guys picks up the car. He sees this black SUV traveling through our town. Attempts to pull him over. They take off from him. So I come running out of headquarters. He's chasing them down Ridge Road, going northbound, which is the main road in our town. And as you come up the Ridge Road, it intersects with Route 3. Route 3, either way, you take Route 3 east, it'll take you to the Turnpike, it'll take you to New York City. Route 3 west, it'll take you to 21, it'll take you to 46. 21 runs from Patterson to Newark. So as he's pursuing the car, come running out of headquarters, I get in my car. I head up towards Ridge Road, and guy's giving updates where he's at, and I'm trying to find him. And so I get towards Route 3, because generally they'll jump onto Route 3 and hit one of the local highways. And, you could hit 17 from there, or like I said, 21, 46.
If you've been on the job long enough, you kind of know, you have a little bit of an idea of where they're going.
Yeah.
So you can sort of anticipate what their next move is. It's not very easy to do, but that comes with time.
Like you said, doing it long enough, I kind of figured the people weren't from the area. They were either from one of the inner cities, I guess you could say. And 21 brings you to those cities. So as he's pursuing him northbound on Ridge Road, I kept asking him for updates. At one point, he said he lost them. So at that point, I had jumped onto Route 3 already. I said to him, do you have any further description? He said, I got a plate. Pretty good. Pursuing a guy and getting a plate. That never happens.
Unfortunately, that plate's never going to come back to the registered owner.
Hotel Yankee 8170.
That's pretty good.
It was carjacked at gunpoint out of Newark earlier in that day. So I make the turnaround. I'm coming back into town. The guys never, we thought they jumped on Route 3. What happened is they hit one of the side roads and got lost. And they wound up making it back into Lyndhurst again. So as I'm coming back into town, another one of our guys picks up the car. So they take off from him, and he's giving out directions. And I'll never forget, he sees a car going to one of our county parks, which are closed after dark. He asked if that's one of our cars in the park, because it goes deep into the park, and he couldn't see it. He just saw a black SUV going through there, and we had a lot of black SUVs. He comes out. My guy was sitting right at the exit to the park. Guy cuts right in front of him. Pursuit's on again. They make it through a couple different streets in town. They make it back up to Ridge Road, which was the initial avenue of pursuit. Now they're coming northbound. I'm coming off of Route 3. I make a right-hand turn. I'm coming southbound. And now at this point, it's 2:25 in the morning.
Which is a good thing because there's not a whole
There's
lot
nobody
of
on the road.
Right.
That's why we continued the pursuit, because I mean he was driving erratically. He was doing 90 miles an hour.
Now I want to stop you right here for a minute because I want to find out at this point, if you can recall, this is some time ago, you have certain details that should be hot buttons for you. You have a carjacked vehicle, which means it's a violent event. You have at gunpoint, so you know that this is game on. This is a little bit more serious than a regular stolen car, which, hey, stolen cars are more sport than anything else. Now you have somebody that's involved in a violent act.
You know they're coming to play.
They're coming to play. So what's going through your head? How are you prepping? How are you wargaming for a possible end game?
There's a lot of things that go through your mind all at once. You know, I'm on the SWAT team. I'm a submachine gun operator on a SWAT team, and they allowed us to carry our long guns in the car. I'm sitting there deciding to myself, should I unstrap the long gun? You know, should I get that ready? Should I just go with my handgun? You know, if God forbid it comes to that.
Mind you, this is all happening within 2 seconds.
Well, without a doubt.
Yeah, you have to go through all these different scenarios in your head.
It feels like an hour.
Correct.
But it's going on. I mean, the whole pursuit lasted not even 5 minutes. Like I said, our guy's pursuing them northbound. I'm coming southbound. And I'm only doing about 25 miles an hour. I can't, you know, because it's the only thing I could see up in the distance is my guy's overhead lights. Because the other guy, the SUV had turned out his headlights. He blacked out. And I'm trying to gauge the distance, like where he's at, you know, how far away he is. And I'm just fixated on my guy's overhead lights. And I don't see any other cars on the road. Like I said, it was dark out. They were in a dark SUV, no headlights. I was waiting for him to cut down one of the side streets. I guess I had tunnel vision, so I'm just staring at that. When I looked back down at the road, the SUV was in my lane of travel coming at me head on 90 miles an hour. I'm only doing about 25. He's coming at me head on 90 miles an hour. I swerve to get out of the way. He swerves to get out of the way.
Can you still smell the burning of the engine? One of the things that people don't realize is when you're in a pursuit, you're hypersensitive to all these different feelings. Your adrenaline's rushing. But every pursuit I've ever been in, there's that same burning engine smell coming off the vehicle in question.
I could even remember the roar of the engine going past me. So as I swerve out of the way, he swerves out of the way. He loses control of the car. How he held control of his car, I have no idea. It was just swaying from curb line to curb line. And this is a wide street. The car was just going out of control. So he passes me. Pursuing car passes me. I make a U-turn, and I start going after them. The suspect vehicle hits a construction sand barrel right over Route 3. As he hit the sand barrel, the car turned sideways a little bit. It's 2:28 in the morning. So we had cops coming from all over the place. I mean, there was Clifton cops there. There was Nutley cops there. You know, they all wanted to join in, you know.
But thankfully, you get that help from those surrounding
absolutely.
towns because when you really need it, they're there.
Yeah, Rutherford borders us. So there was a Rutherford car sitting right on the border. And Route 3 actually is where Rutherford starts. So the car hits the sand barrel. Rutherford car just happened to be sitting waiting for them. After the suspect crashes into the sand barrel, Rutherford car pulls right in behind them to try to block him in. The driver at this point puts the car in reverse, starts ramming into the Rutherford car. All the while, the wheels are spinning. Road's filling up with smoke, and you were saying the different smells and senses you remember. The road's filling up with smoke. I could still smell the smell of burning rubber. It's like ingrained in my senses now.
And every time you smell it hereafter, you're there.
It brings you right back.
Yep.
As the wheels are spinning, the road's filling up with smoke. We can't really see all that well. We go up to the car, guns drawn. He's backed up into the Rutherford unit, and we're yelling, you know, show me your hands, show me your hands, show me your hands. He's got the car in reverse, and I'll never forget it. Another thing that's ingrained in your memory. He had his left hand on the steering wheel. I came up on the passenger side. He was reaching down between the passenger seat, staring me right in the face. I mean, I remember his face to this day. It's like one of those things that are just ingrained in your memory that I could never get rid of. He's backed into the car. Tires are spinning. The tire's breaking up. I had burned rubber from the top of my head all the way down the left side of my uniform. We're drawing down on him. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Pulls his hand up in it like a jerking motion. At that point, we started firing on him. Fired right through the passenger side window. That's one of the tough things that people don't realize. From 5 feet away, I saw a bullet go right in the guy's forehead. I saw his forehead just open up, and his whole body just went limp.
Slow motion, too.
Yeah. And as his body went limp, he pressed down on the gas. The gas was floored. Now the tires are spinning out of control. At one point, I recall seeing a key in the ignition. So I'm thinking to myself, I have to shut this car off somehow. I'm thinking it's going to be spinning, maybe push the Rutherford car out of the way, and thought it would jump over the overpass and land on the Route 3. So I'm thinking, I got to shut this car off somehow. I take out I don't recall what I did with my gun. I guess I reholstered. I took out my expandable baton.
You're one of the only people I've ever heard that used an expandable baton.
Yeah.
But they're always to break windows.
I'm old school. Yeah. So I take it, I break and rake the window, and I go to reach in to hit the ignition, try to shut it off. Passenger popped up right in my face. Damn. Never even knew there was a passenger in the car.
Damn.
He was, if he had a gun, I was gone. I was long gone.
You get that tunnel vision. Don't they tell you in the academy?
Don't get it on a driver.
But hey, listen, we're sitting here, we're Monday morning quarterbacking the whole thing, and it's easy to say that, but when it's game on, it's a whole different story.
Passenger pops up in my face. Again, I don't know what I did with my baton at that point. I drew down on the passenger, and I said, let me see your hands. I said, you're going to get the same thing. Let me see your hands. His hands just came up, and I mean, he was compliant at that time. We carry ballistic shields in our cars. So one of the guys who happened to respond right after the shooting was coming out with a ballistic shield. So I told him, hold down on the passenger, because the old saying in law enforcement, if there's one, there's two. If there's two, there's 10. So we couldn't see, the windows were all tinted out, so we couldn't see in the car. So I didn't know if there was, 5 people in there, 6 people in there. I had no clue. So he held down on the passenger window. I said, I ran around the car like a fireman, breaking windows, just breaking it. You know how firemen look. God bless firemen. They run into places that we run out of.
Yeah, but they like to turn on their lights and break windows. That's what they do.
Windows, go through red lights and all that stuff. So I break and rake all the windows on the side, and then we clear out the whole car. At that point, now the tire's spinning out of control. The tire blows out. Now it's metal on ground. Now we're getting just the sparks coming up at us. So I'm shielding my eyes, and I take my baton, and I'm trying to open the door handle to get this guy out. Murphy's Law, door handle breaks right off. Now, what else could go wrong at this point? I don't recall if I shut the car off before we got him out. But what we had to do is drag him out the passenger side window. We got him out. He got out without a scratch on him.
He's very lucky, too, because you got a lot of cops around there with their adrenaline through the roof.
There was guns drawn everywhere.
He's probably got some gunpowder in his ears.
Well, like I said, we fired right across him. Going back to it real quick, I reach in, I wound up shutting off the car, and, so scene was safe at that point. 30 seconds to 40 to 45 seconds after the incident was over, state police hear it, and you know them, they love them to death. They want to get involved in it. We had troopers coming from the turnpike. We had troopers coming from the parkway. We had troopers coming from everywhere. State trooper comes pulling up off of Route 3. He gets out of the car with a shotgun. He comes running onto the scene. Now, at this point, the car was still bucking back and forth. We hadn't shut it off at that point. Trooper comes running up, goes up. The car's bucking back and forth. He can't see with all the smoke. He decides to blow about 4 or 5 shotgun rounds into the car. All the cops are reholstered at that point, just standing there.
Here's that fine line between being a police officer and being somebody who's about to not be a police officer. He blew off all those rounds. He could have, A, killed an innocent person, B, killed another officer on scene. That's just a bad situation.
You learn about it in the academy all the time, your different angles and your crossfire and everything else. We couldn't see anything. Matter of fact, the Rutherford unit that pulled behind the car to block him in, that officer got out and he went around to the driver's side. We never knew he was over there. We couldn't see him. We couldn't see anything. Thank God we were accurate with our shots, or, we could have hit that officer.
I know you've told that story so many different times through, grand jury, to the prosecutor's office, to your department, to family and friends. I know it's real tough for you. I appreciate you telling that story. When I told my shooting story on here, it broke me up But I'm going to be honest with you, I felt better when it was done. It was almost like a release. It had been so long since I told that, but I didn't forget one little detail. It doesn't sound like you did either.
I remember all the details. Well, I can't say all, but I remember most of the details. But the timeline is kind of skewed a little bit. You know, I don't know if it happened at this point or that point. Like I said, I don't know if we got the passenger out before we shut the car off. I don't know if we got him out after we shut the car off.
Now, what year did this happen again?
2014.
And when's the last time you told that story?
Probably about a year ago.
A year ago. You know, so how have you changed? Like I said in the beginning, you go to work one way, something happens, you come home a different person. How's your life changed? How have you changed as a person because of what happened? And we're going to get into the different steps of what happened. But tell me, Mike Failace went to work this day, came home from work this day. How are you different?
I'm a big quote person. I like to go online and look up quotes and stuff like that. And I saw one quote that really touched me. It says, "They say I changed a lot, but I say a lot changed me." So I did change, but there's a reason that I changed. You know, that incident changed me. Yes, I did change, but something changed me. I would say life will never be the same again. You come to realize it's just going to be a new normal. You have your bouts with anxiety, stress, anger, irritability, depression.
Who did you have to lean on around this time? I'm assuming your circle has grown. Actually, I know for a fact your circle has grown.
Exponentially.
But right after the incident, who did you have to lean on?
Right after the incident, I mean, without getting into specifics, I didn't have a close group.
Nor did you probably think you needed.
No.
You're a strong guy.
Being a tough, badass cop. I used to hear about people going to see these different doctors and everything. I'm like, what the hell do you need that for? Come on, you're a cop.
That's why I don't fault people for having any type of negative reaction to my incident, because I'm on the other side now, and I understand that prior to the shooting, it's not that I would have thought they were weak, but I just would have thought, hey, that's not for me.
Yeah.
But now that I've gone through something like that, it's a little bit different.
I used to hear about cops being involved in shootings and they retired after it. And back in the day, like I said, when I was Joe Macho Cop, I'm like, oh, come on. Isn't that what you signed up for? There was always that chance of it happening. And, you see people retiring because of shootings. I feel terrible about it now, but I prejudged them before I knew what they were actually going through.
And that's why I don't hold anything against anybody. They're prejudging me, and that's fine. And I honestly hope these people who prejudge me never have to go through what I went through.
People say, oh, you're retired. It's like hitting a lottery.
Yeah.
Well, come live my lottery.
Yeah.
Come from my sleepless nights. In the beginning, it was terrible. Like I said, the picture of the guys that I have ingrained in my memory is him staring me right in the face, seeing his forehead open up. It's something that no sane person should have to see any time in their life. And for years, and it still happens a lot, it's the last thing I see when I put my head on a pillow at night. And a lot of times it's the first thing I see when I wake up in the morning.